Previously to recording, I got this palette prepared. It's a small purse palette that I used out of a makeup compact I was able to get at Dollarama. It originally came with the sponge applicator, but I'm using this little makeup brush that does fit in well. It doesn't quite click shut, but it stays shut rather well still. I can also bring a water brush with me in my purse. I set it up so I could have 10 colors in the 5 spots, and that each set would have 2 colors that can mix together in order to make different colors by mixing them. I had to think it out a lot. I ended up going with Van Gogh Carmine, Paul Rubens Opera Pink, Nickel Quin Azo Gold Emgram, Van Gogh Phthalo Green, Van Gogh's Transparent Yellow Medium, Cobalt Teal Blue, Mummy Bauxite by Daniel Smith, my Turner Artist Watercolor Ultramarine, Titanium White Gouache, which in this case is Emgram, and Quinacridone Purple Blue by Van Gogh. I was just in the mood to do certain things, and I decided to go with this palette, even though looking back on it, I probably didn't need to put the Quinacridone Purple Blue as much, and I can do without the Cobalt Teal Blue because I could have mixed a similar color. The Titanium White Gouache is really useful because then I can make anything in here more gouache. I can make pastels, and I can make things a little more opaque. And it is a really good palette. The Paul Rubens Opera Pink was kind of a bit of a precious decision because I only had 5 milliliter tubes from my Paul Rubens Neon set, which is the Opera Bright set. But I decided that was the color after much thinking and narrowing it down. Things like this is also based on the current opinion. I wanted to make sure that the 10 colors work together exceptionally well to mix a lot of different things and also be fast to use, but they also had to work next to each other to mix a useful color. The Mummy Bauxite and Ultramarine, for example, mix a neutral tone and can mix a black. The Carmine and Opera Pink mix a nice pink, but the 2 sets that are my favorites is the Nickel Quin Azo Gold, Nickel Quinacridone Gold, and the Phthalo Green, which makes my ultimate plant mother color green. And I really like the Mummy Bauxite and Ultramarine, which mixes really good dark neutrals and blacks. All the other mixes work as good as well, but they are slightly more about the total mixing that I can do. Quinacridone Purple Blue was less necessary because with Carmine, a touch of Opera Pink, and the Ultramarine, I can mix a very similar color. With a touch of the Titanium White Gouache with Phthalo Green, the Van Gogh Phthalo Green, which is a bluish phthalo green, and the Tau Ultramarine, I can get a sort of Cobalt Teal Blue. But I have to say that the Transparent Yellow Medium, Mummy Bauxite, Ultramarine, Opera Pink, Carmine, Nickel Quin Azo Gold, and Phthalo Green, as well as the Titanium White Gouache, I'm completely happy with. Eventually I might swap out the Quinacridone Purple Blue and the Cobalt Teal Blue for different colors, but for now I think I'll actually just attempt to use up the paint because it is an interesting, good, and fun set of colors. I actually find it's really nice to not obsess about light fastness and to use colors that actually make you happy. I've been finding using the neon colors in the right times and stuff that isn't light fast can be really fun, and to not limit yourself to only colors that you know are going to last a long haul when art is also about fun and creativity. I also find that colors that are less light fast can last longer if you put them in dimmer rooms and if they're behind glass, particularly UV protective glass. I had an art marker piece behind UV protective glass for years. I even brought it out to art shows. It's even been in the sunlight a little and it didn't fade at all. So it is worth taking into consideration. Now, if you're doing original art, that original art is for sale, you should very much be concerned about light fastness, and you should warn customers if you're using anything that's fugitive, maybe even give them the option. And you can do your best to use the most light fast material as you can. But I do find at a certain point it can be detrimental to the creative process, and I've been really enjoying being able to have a super bright Opera Pink in there, which has been really helpful as well. I was originally making this as the Botanical Dragon Wormling, which was going to be for my Project Great Tree book, which was a 5e compatible book I was making. I actually got halfway done. And then really horrible stuff happened where the company that owns Dungeons and Dragons is doing terrible, terrible things, and it's a whole thing with the OGL, and everything's being threatened, and so I have to give up on doing the Great Tree book, at least for now. I may be able to redo it to release under a different game system. And instead I pivoted all my effort and my attention towards a different project, which I've been working on for a little while, which is my own tabletop role-playing game that I think is even better than 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons, frankly, and I aim to make it the best tabletop role-playing game ever. Still, I can't regret this art. It's beautiful, and I am planning on still using the creatures and the artwork and things. I just have to figure out exactly how and when, and the project itself has, right now, been cancelled, although it's not that the work was for nothing, it's just I'm not going to be able to make that book exactly as I had planned. So I'm just going to go ahead and say none of it is going to be 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons anymore, due to the evil monstrosity that Hasbro and Wizards of the Coast has become and has shown their face to be. And I don't want to get into every detail, but it's pretty horrific. And I'm sure you can look it up. Look up what's going on with that. But at any rate, it actually does directly affect me. And what I'm going to do is just work on my own game and look into other games I can do third-party content for, perhaps, but probably focus on working my own game. The other thing I've been working on is a coloring book that I've been working on as well. But at any rate, I have things I can do. Now, in this case, I'm actually using one of my favorite papers I have, which is the Fabriano Hot Press 25% cotton paper. And that paper is really good for watercolors. I think because it's a little thicker, I think that it's the best one I have. I have 100% cotton, but it's only 90 pound, the Strathmore 500, and I don't actually like that paper. It's okay, but it's weird to me. I think the actual best paper I have is this Fabriano. And a lot of people say, you gotta get 100% cotton, you gotta. It's just like, it's too expensive, so I'm just gonna keep forcing the papers I have to work properly. And right now I'm trying to save money if I can, so I really have to use what I already have anyway. And there is a lot of tips I've figured out through intense effort and trial and error for actually how to use watercolors on cheaper paper anyway. So at any rate, what I'm doing here is I'm actually using some softer brushes. It's a natural hair brush as well. And I'm planning things out really well. So I have the limited palette from here. And when there's a cut like that, that means I went away and I did let it fully dry. So what I did is plan everything out. And I have a palette on the side where I'm mixing colors. And I'm carefully going over everything. I'm using some wet and wet techniques once I put down some wet paint to drop more color in. And I'm making sure to soften the edges when I want them softened. And I'm really using the fact that this paper can actually do layering decently well. And I'm layering things up. So I'm working lighter to darker. And I'm very much planning out my moves before I do them and letting everything thoroughly dry. So as you can see, I'm also using a catch under page, which is a tracing page, just so my skin oils and any dirt or possible transfer from my hand is less likely to get on the painting itself. And you have to be careful about where the wet paint is as well. I also am switching brushes so that I'm using more precise detailed brushes for more precise detailed areas. And I'm using softer, larger brushes for larger, more gradiated shapes. This entire video is also extremely sped up, so it really took a lot longer to work on things. I'm actually really happy with this art and ended up deciding to frame it and put it up on the wall after I scanned it from my computer. I'm just doing a last few details here, darkening things up. I believe I also added shines in the eyes after I finished filming and maybe a couple final touches that didn't get recorded. I do hope you enjoyed this video, and here's a final look at the framed, finished artwork as it is up on the wall. Once again, that's all for this video. If you like my videos, please remember to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell to all notifications so you will know when a new video comes up. I aim for new videos every Wednesday, but sometimes life happens and things are delayed. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and we'll see you with another one very soon.